Okay, class, we are now on the topic of the essential requisites or elements of a contract. Tapos na tayo sa general concepts, so let us proceed. The essential elements of contract, according to 1318, are consent, object, and cause. So according to Article 1318, there can be no contract unless these three requisites, or sometimes called elements, are present. Okay? The consent of the contracting parties, of course, the object, which is the subject matter of the contract. Okay, and the object is also the subject. The object is also the subject matter of the contract, or the cause of the obligation, which is established. Okay, but take note, class kani siya enumeration is provided by Article 18, 1318. But sometimes, some contracts, especially those involving land, mga deed of sale, mortgage of land, okay, donation of land, to be valid as a contract, they are required to be in a public instrument. A public instrument class is uh, notaryado na document. Okay? So, for these contracts, aside from the three elements, the fourth one is it must be written in a public instrument. Okay, there are other elements of the contract. Kanisa wala siya naka-enumerate sa 1318. Pero somewhere else in the civil code nakasulat siya. Okay, number one, other elements aside from the three are the natural elements. Mga these natural elements exist even if wala sa naagrihan sa parties, like warranty against eviction and warranty against hidden defects. Kani siyang mga warranties class. We'll be discussing your next law subjects, law on sales. Okay. So even if the parties did not agree on these warranties, mga warranties, they are considered included in the contract unless the parties expressly set aside these elements. Okay? Kapag wala naman gi-set aside sa parties through stipulation, these natural elements are considered to be part of the contract. The other element of a contract is the accidental elements. Okay, these are the stipulations, terms, conditions that the party may establish. Okay, periods, stipulations, provisions, conditions. Okay, these are the accidental elements of the contract. Anyway, this is not so important coming other elements. What is important are the three main elements. So let us discuss first the first element, which is the element of consent. So what is consent, class? Consent is the conformity or concurrence of the offer and acceptance. Okay. Consent daw is happens when nagkaroon ng offer, then gi-accept. Okay. One party made an offer, the other party accepted, then there is consent. Okay. Example, I offer to you my cellphone, baligyan ako sa imo. And then you accepted it, then you paid me. That is consent. Consent is also called the meeting of the minds between the parties. Okay, so if you are asked when is there a meeting of the minds, there is a meeting of the minds when there is a concurrence of the offer and the acceptance. It's also called a consent. Obvious man sa class, kapag ka nag-enter ka into contract, dapat you have to give your consent. Okay, the consent is also the cause which constitute the contract. Okay? So kapag wala nagbigay ng consent, walang contract because there is no cause for the contract. So, as discussed a while ago, consent is the concurrence of the offer and the acceptance. Unahon na to i-discuss ang offer. What is an offer? Offer is a proposal made by the offerer to the offeree. It's a proposal ng offer. Obvious na. Okay, but purposes of contract, the offer must be certain and seriously intended. It must be certain class, ibig sabihin klaro, sakto, and it must be seriously intended, di lang joke-joke. Okay? Kasi kung joke-joke lang, hindi serious yung nag-offer, there might be no contract na mag-agreehan. Okay, it must be serious, intended. Okay, may intention to make the offer. And the offer can be, of course, withdrawn before the acceptance. Okay, ibig sabihin, pwede mo bawiin ng offer before i-accept ng other party. So, if there's an offer, naguna-una pa ang other party, you can withdraw before the acceptance. Why? Because there is no consent yet. There is no contract yet. Pwede mo i-withdraw. Wala pa man i-accept. Okay? Kasi kapag i-accept na, nagkaroon na ng contract, diba? Ang discussion last meeting is that the parties are bound. Both of the parties are bound to the contract. Okay. So, kapag offer pa, wala ka natapos, napa sa negotiation, pwede pa i-withdraw. Basta wala pa nag-accept. Paano i-communicate ang offer class? Pwede cellphone, email, tawag sa cellphone, pwede text, okay? Basta ma-receive siya ng offeree. Ang offer must be received by the offeree, of course. Okay, it may be expressed or implied. Pwede siya i-express, pwede po implied. Implied is, gitunol din mo sa iya with the price tag. Pwede, it can be considered an implied offer. Acceptance. What is acceptance? Acceptance is the manifestation by the offeree of his assent or agreement to all the terms of the offer. To all the terms last. Okay, dapat all the terms. All the terms of the offer. Okay. Kapag kasi hindi to all the terms, baka may counter offer. Okay, counter offer class is when I offer to you my cellphone, baligya, for 10,000. Ingon mo, sige, pero 8,000 lang. Oh, that is not acceptance, but that is a counter offer. Okay? A counter offer is not considered an acceptance class. Kahit na naging sige. May counter offer na baba ng price. Kasi ang acceptance must be assent to all the terms of the offer. Okay? Baka kasi kung hindi siya mag-assent to all the terms, he is making a counter offer. In that case, there is no acceptance. Okay, of course, if there is no acceptance by the offeree, there can be no meeting of the minds between the parties, and there can be no contract. So, the acceptance, the offer, and as well as the acceptance must be clear, and it must be absolute. Para sure. Okay, paano ba ang form ang acceptance sa offer? Pwede gyapon cellphone, text, email, basta ma-communicate dito sa offeree. It may be expressed or implied, it may be oral, or it might be written. Okay. So, ang rule sa class is, an offer made through an agent is accepted from the time the acceptance is communicated to the said agent. Agent class is someone na nagre-represent sa imo. Imo ang gi-authorize. Okay. For example, you authorize me to make an offer to Mr. X. Okay. May consent class if the offer ni Mr. X, ang offer kay Mr. X, gi-accept niya, yun niya sa agent, okay, sugot ko. Kahit na di pa nakarating ang information sa principal, basta nakarating na sa agent, okay, it is considered accepted na ang offer. Because the agent is the representative of the principal. Number 2, an offer becomes ineffective upon the death, civil interdiction, insanity, or insolvency of the other party before acceptance is conveyed. Okay? Pag offer, namatay ang offeree, or namatay ang offeror, wala pa na-accept, of course, there is no acceptance. Obvious. When the offerer has allowed the offeree a certain period to accept, the offer may be withdrawn at any time before the acceptance by communicating such withdrawal, except when the option is founded upon a consideration as something paid or promised. Na may cases mo good class na may period. For example, I am offering my cellphone sa imo, palito nimo. I give you 1 week to decide. O, di ba may period? Okay, ulit. I-offer na ka akong cellphone sa imo for 10,000. I give you 1 week to decide. Katong 1 week class, okay, is the period of the offer. Pwede i-withdraw ang offer within the week. Basta wala pag-accept. Okay, wala pa natapos ang week to decide, wala pa po nag-accept, pwede i-withdraw. Of course. Except daw, kung may bayad ang 1 week. Ano siya klase? Okay. The 1 week is called an option contract. No. The 1 week is the period. Okay. An option contract is when you pay for the period. For example, katong 1 week, nagbayad ka para dili offer sa iba. For example, I offer to my cellphone sa iyo, baligya for 10,000. And then you paid 100 pesos para sa 1 week na to decide, dili i-offer sa ibang tao. Ang tawag sa contract na tong 1 week na with payment of 100 is called an option contract. The 100 is called option money. The 1 week is called the option period. Okay? Kapag may bayad ang option period, may bayad ng option money, kahit hindi pag-accept class, hindi pwede i-withdraw ang offer. Basta wala pa nag-lapse ang period. Why? Because may option contract. Bayad ang 1 week for the offeree to decide. Okay? The option contract is separate from the contract ang gina-offer. Ang original contract is, I am offering you my cellphone for sale, 10,000. That is a separate contract. Ang option na contract, which is 1 week to decide with payment of 100 pesos, is a separate contract. Separate siya sa baligya cellphone. Okay? So, sa option contract, the offeror cannot withdraw the offeree because there was payment for the period. That payment is called option money. And the contract for the 1 week to decide with payment is called an option contract. Okay, this is very important. Do not confuse option money with earnest money. Earnest money class is partial payment, or sometimes called the down payment. Okay. Balik-balik na siya sa board exam class. Balik-balik na siya sa lain-lain nga exam. Ang difference sa option money at earnest money. Earnest money is down payment. This is part of the original contract, which is the offer to sell the cellphone for 10,000. Then nag-down payment ka ng 1,000. Okay. The 1,000 is called earnest money. This is proof that there was a perfected contract na gi-offer. Kaiba sa option money. Option money is payment for the option contract, for the option period. Okay. Take note always the difference between an option money and the earnest money. Balik-balik na siya. More rules. Unless it appears otherwise, business advertisement of things for sale are not definite offers but mere invitations to make an offer. So, may mga negosyo class na advertisement. Basta advertisement, these are not offers but invitation to make an offer. Okay. Dili kami ngon, uy, gi-accept. Pagkita nyo sa TV, may advertisement, uy, gi-accept mo. Nanadayoy consent. No. Because advertisement, whether sa TV, sa cellphone, or sa newspaper, these are not offers actually. These are invitation to make an offer. Okay? So, you cannot just accept it while sitting down, while watching the TV. You cannot, accept ko na. Meron ng contract kasi na consent. No, because these are not offers actually. Advertisement for bidders are simply invitations to make proposals, and the advertiser is taught to accept the highest and the lowest bidder unless the contrary appears. Okay? Kaya class makita niyo mo, invitation to bid usually ang ginagamit na word. Okay? It's not an invitation to accept the offer, but an invitation to bid. To bid is to make proposals. And dili naman bound ang nag-advertise sa highest or lowest bidder unless i-express niya na he will buy from the lowest bidder or the highest bidder. Okay? Kani, important po ni. The following cannot give consent to a contract. Unemancipated minors. Okay. Actually, minors na sa class. Minors are 17 years old and below. Why? Because 18 years old is the age of majority in the Philippines. Okay. Unemancipated minors, 17 and below. 17 years old and below. Insane or demented persons, mga buang, deaf mutes who do not know how to read and write. Deaf mutes, deaf na mute pa. Okay. Bakit hindi sila pwede magbigay consent class? Because they can be easily victims to fraud by the other party. Baka maloko lang. So the law says they cannot give consent. Pero deceiving ni sa class. Why? Because contracts entered into by the minor or by the buang is actually valid. Kaya lang buang may defect siya. Kaya siya naging voidable. Voidable class, ibig sabihin, pwede ka mag-file sa court o case para i-invalidate. Pero habang wala pa na-invalidate, the contract is valid. Okay? Contracts entered into during lucid interval are valid. Lucid interval class, temporary period of sanity. Ibig sabihin, ang buwang, naulian ka dali, you can enter into a contract during lucid interval. Contracts agreed to in the state of drunkenness, hubog, or during hypnotic spell, na-hypnotize, are also valid but are voidable. Why? Because drunkenness and hypnotic spell will impair the capacity of a person to give intelligent consent. Okay. Voidable daw class. Basta makakita mag-word nga voidable, valid na siya until mag-file kag case sa court para ma-annul or ma-void. Okay. So, deceiving ning voidable. So, there are other persons disqualified by law class. Most specifically, the rules of court of the Supreme Court. Sabi niya, person suffering from accessory penalty of civil interdiction. May mga kaso mga class na magsentensya sila. Aside sa preso, may penalty, and then may civil interdiction. Civil interdiction na kay mga freedom mga i-bawyon sa imo like the freedom to vote. Habang nakakulong ka, di ka pwede magboto, di ka pwede mag-enter into a contract. Civil interdiction ang tawag na. So if you are under civil interdiction, you cannot enter into a contract. You cannot give consent. Hospitalized lepers. Prodigals or spendthrifts, mga naglayas tapos naggastos lang ng gastos parang sa prodigal son. Okay. Those who are, kanina number 4 important, those who are by reason of age, sobrang tanda o sobrang bata, or may sakit, mahina ang mind, and other similar causes, who cannot, without the outside aid of other people, cannot take care of themselves or their properties. So, to protect them, the law says, hindi sila pwede mag-give ng consent. Okay? This is important. Contracts entered into by incapacitated persons, like minors, buang, deaf mutes, who do not know how to read and write, and the other enumeration, spendthrifts, civil interdiction, weak persons who are weak by age, mind, and in mind. Okay? Actually, ang tawag sa contract nila is voidable. Okay? Meaning they are valid until they are annulled by the court. Kading ang enforceable class, usually may tabo ni siya if duha ka parties, duha ka bata, duha ka buang, nagsabot, duha ka bata, nagsabot, Void, unenforceable ang tawag ng clause. You cannot go to court para ma-enforce ang contract kasi di siya ma-enforce, unenforceable. Okay, pero kung isa lang ka-party ang buang, ang isa dili buang, ang isa bata, ang isa dili bata, ang isa incapacitated, ang isa dili, these are voidable contracts. Voidable contract means they are valid until annulled by the court. Annulled or made void by the court. Very important na sa klasa, voidable contracts are valid until they are annulled. Okay. Kanina po ang another very important. A contract where consent is given through mistake, violence, intimidation, undue influence, or fraud is voidable. Ang sa kanyang voidable? Voidable is valid until annulled. So if ang consent is given through mistake, nagkamali sa pagbigay ng consent. Okay? Violence, okay? Habang gina-offer sa imo, ginakulata ka para i-accept nimo. I-accept na lang nimo kay ginakulata man ka. That is violence. Intimidation, okay? Habang gina-make ang offer, nagabaid siya og sundang or nagakasa-kasa og baril, that is intimidation para magpayag ka. Undue influence is nasa sa better position to influence you, like pastor as to pastor ug ang iyang parishioner, pare with parishioner, boss and employee. Okay, gi-undue ka influence. Ibig sabihin, napilit ka ng isang taong may authority over you, that is undue influence. Or there is fraud. Ang fraud na gina-declare is dulo kausante, not dulo insidente ha. If these things happen para magbigay ka ng consent, the contract is voidable. Voidable means valid until annulled. Kaning mistake, violence, intimidation, undue influence, or fraud are called vices of consent. Bisyo. Ng bisyo sa consent. Error or mistake, synonymous na sila. Violence or force, pinilit ka, kulatado ka. Intimidation, threat, or duress, tinakot ka. Sa number 2 class, may physical violence. May hitting. While sa number 3, tinakot lang. Okay, sa isip lang ang number 3. Number 4, undue influence. And number 5, fraud or deceit. Okay. Number 3 kasi intimidation, threat, or duress. Synonymous na sila. Fraud or deceit in number 5 is synonymous. Okay, so error or mistake. In order that the mistake may invalidate the consent, it should refer to the substance of the thing. Okay, may mistake sa thing, sa object. Okay. Akala mo cellphone. Yun pala, charger lang pala ang ginabenta mo. Ang ginabenta sa'yo. So, there was an error. Okay. Dahil sa maling akala, nabigay ka ng consent. Okay. So, the contract is voidable. Pwede mo ipa-cancel, ipa-annul sa court. Take note lo sa basta voidable ang contract, dili mo pwede i-declare ikaw lang. Dapat ko sa court, ipa-declare mo nga null and void ang voidable contract. Until hindi i-declare sa court, it is valid. Okay. So, error or mistake must be error on the substance of the thing or on the conditions that have moved you to enter into the contract. Okay, pagka totally nagkamali kayo, yung mabigat na pagkakamali, then your consent may be vitiated. Vitiated class is, the root word is vice. Kaya ganun, vices of consent. If the vices, any of the vices of consent are present, ang tawag sa consent class is vitiated consent. Okay. Mistake as to one of the parties may also vitiate consent. Okay. Only when it is the primary cause of the contract. Okay. A simple mistake of account shall give rise to its correction. Okay. Pang a simple mistake will not invalidate the consent. I-correct lang. Correct lang. Okay. Depende pag yung error or mistake class. Depende sa circumstance kung if the error or mistake was so big na may pagkakamali for giving the consent, then it will invalidate the consent. It will make the consent vitiated. Pero kung simple mistake lang na pwede pa i-correct, it should be corrected. It should not vitiate consent. Okay. There is no mistake if the party alleging it and claiming it knew na merong doubt, merong risk affecting the object of the contract. So if you know that there is doubt, risk, may contingency, okay, baka yung gina-claim mo na mistake is hindi siya paniwalaan because we already know that there is doubt. When one of the parties is unable to read, tapos ang contract is in writing, it is expected na i-explain doon sa other party, lalo na hindi nakakabasa. Okay? So, pag hindi niya naintindihan, di mo rin na explain sa kanya ang nakasulat, then he can claim a mistake. Okay, on violence and force. Okay, there is violence when, in order to wrest consent, serious or irresistible force is employed. Okay? Dapat serious force plus force. Or irresistible force. Serious or irresistible force is employed. Okay? Habang nakaupo ka, para pumayag ka, ginapukpok ka ng puwet ng baril o ginapukpok ka ng baseball bat, pwede yun. Pero kung kusi-kusi lang ka, it's not so serious or irresistible. It may not vitiate consent. Okay? For violence or force to vitiate consent, must be serious and irresistible. On intimidation or threat or duress, okay, there is intimidation when one of the contracting parties is compelled by a reasonable and well-grounded fear. Take note, lots, ang intimidation, threat, or duress is fear. Ibig sabihin, nasa mind, nasa isip. Hindi siya physical. Kung physical, manggod ang violence or force. Threat, intimidation, or duress is fear, nasa isip. Bakit mo naisip yan? Because there are acts made by the other party para matakot ka. Siguro, habang nakaupo ka dyan, may malaking itak siya na gina-sharpen or nagkakasa ng baril, hindi ka naman tinamaan, dinapakita lang sa'yo, di ba, matatakot ka. So, this is intimidation, threat, or duress. Okay? Not only to the person, but also to his property. Okay? Takutin ka, susunugin ko ang property mo, o sirain ko property mo. Okay? Or, the person or property of your spouse, descendants, mga anak, apo sa tuhod, or ascendants, papa, lolo sa tuhod. Okay? Pwede rin nila takutin para mag-pirma ka. Okay? So, if you look at this, wala namang sinabi dito, uncle, aunts, or nephews, nieces, wala sinabi. Ito lang sinabi yun. Spouse, descendants, and ascendants. Wala sinabi neighbor. So, according to law, ito lang, spouse, descendants, ascendants. Okay. On intimidation, threat, or duress class, titingnan din natin ang degree of intimidation sa sex, age, condition of the person shall be borne in mind. Okay. You cannot claim threat kung ikaw 50 years old tapos ang nag-threat sa imo is a grade 3 pupil. Okay? Or maskulado ka, malaki ka. So nag-threat sa imo is payatot na maliit. Okay? Baka hindi paniwalaan yung intimidation na sinasabi mo. Or the condition of the person. Okay? Ikaw, mas kulado ka to sa nag-threat sa imo. Nakaupo sa wheelchair. Tapos, mahina ang katawan. So, there might be no threat there or intimidation. At legal threat. A legal threat is a threat to enforce one's claim through competent authority. If the claim is just or legal, this will not vitiate consent. Ang legal threat class usually, if hindi ka magpayag, kakasuhan ka, or mag-file ng case sa'yo sa court, that is valid threat. Tawagan na is legal threat. Okay? Ang threat, intimidation, or duress din ang ginayon class para ma-vitiate ang consent are illegal threats. Okay? Ang legal threats, pwede. Legal threat, basta ang imong threat is to claim through competent authority. Okay? Undue influence, when a person takes improper advantage of his power over the will of another, depriving the latter of a reasonable freedom of choice. Okay? Ang undue influence class, dapat may relationship ang parties. It's either, dapat may power siya over you. Example, yung power, yung other party is the employer, kasi ikaw employee, nagkaroon kayo ng contract, pero ginamit ng employer yung influence niya sa'yo para mapilit ka kasi siguro ikaw ayaw mo magalit sa'yo ang boss mo, or pastor, tapos ikaw parokyano ka, o ayaw mo magalit sa'yo ang sa'yo o si pastor, pumayag ka na lang sa contract kasi nahiya ka or baka man na magalit. Okay, basta may, or teacher mo or coach mo, tapos ikaw student ka or trainee ka ng coach, tapos ginamit nila ang influence over you para pumayag ka to enter into a contract, undue influence na siya. Pero kung pareha lang naman kayo, magkamag-anak, neighbor, or friend, you cannot claim undue influence kasi wala siya power over you. Okay. So, undue influence is a kind that overpowers the mind of a party to prevent him from acting understandably involuntary to do what he had done if he had been left to express freely his own judgment and discretion. Okay. The following circumstances shall be considered: the confidential, family, spiritual, and other relations between the parties. Okay, dapat may relationship ang parties para magkaroon ng undue influence. It might be a confidential influence, family influence, spiritual, and other relations between the parties. The fact that the person alleged to have been unduly influenced was suffering from mental weakness or was ignorant or in financial distress. Importante din financial distress class lang. Okay? Yung take advantage, wala ka ng pera, take advantage, binili na lang yung gamit mo for very low amount. Okay? Pwede ka maging undue influence. Kasi sobrang pangailangan mo, undue influence niya na pababain yung price. Fraud or deceit, take note, causal fraud or bulo causanti ang ginagawa. This is the fraud that will force you to enter into a contract. If you can remember, yung incidental fraud is fraud sa pag-perform sa contract. Okay. Pag niloko ka, halimbawa, I am selling to you my phone, tapos charger lang pala ang ibebenta sa'yo, that is causal fraud. Kasi akala mo, cellphone. Okay. That is dolo causante, the fraud that caused you to enter into a contract. Kasi ang dolo incidental class, the other fraud is during the performance na sa contract. Okay? I am selling you my cellphone na ibebenta ko sa'yo. Pero nung dineliver ko, yung cellphone may sira. Kasi sinira ko. That is fraud, dolo incidente. That is not the fraud na will vitiate consent. Ang fraud na mag-vitiate ang consent class is dolo causante, or causal fraud. Okay, fraud that will induce you to enter into a contract. So it is causal fraud or dolo causante which will vitiate consent. Failure to disclose facts when there is duty to reveal them or conceal the facts, okay, may constitute fraud. May tinawag. Importante. Usual exaggeration in trade when the other party had the opportunity to know the facts are not in themselves fraudulent. Okay? Nabili ka sa palengke ng langgana kasi sabi nung nagbibita, dili ni mabuhat, bisan sa bunal. Mabuhat na lang ang imong ulo, ang langgana hindi pa. That is exaggerations in trade. These are not fraud. Okay? A mere expression of an opinion, lalo na pag hindi expert, is not fraud. Okay? Expression lang ng opinion. Okay? Magkakaroon lang ng fraud if merong expert na nagbigay ng opinion, tapos yung opinion na yun is based on his special knowledge, tapos nag-rely ka dito, and then later on you learn na it was erroneous, so maybe there can be fraud there. Misrepresentation by a third person who is not a party to the contract will not vitiate consent. Okay, unless nagkaroon ng substantial mistake by the parties. Okay. Misrepresentation made in good faith is not fraudulent but may constitute error. Okay, error or mistake. Okay, basta in good faith class, hindi siya fraud kundi error or mistake. Ang imong cause dili fraud. Okay, simulation of contract. An absolutely simulated or fictitious contract takes place when the parties do not intend to be bound at all. That is why an absolutely simulated or fictitious contract is void. Void meaning wala, hindi, nothing. It is nothing. There is no contract. Basta absolutely simulated. Simulated is gawa-gawa lang. Or fictitious. There is another simulation contract class ang tawag relative. A relatively simulated contract takes place when the parties consult their true agreement. Okay? Meron true agreement class, pero i-simulate lang to look like it's another contract. So that is a relative simulation. Example, bibigay ko talaga sa iyo ang cellphone, pero palabas lang natin na binili mo. Okay? Relatively simulated contract. There is an actual contract, pero pinalabas lang as another contract. In my example, it is a donation pero pinalabas na sale. Ano mangyayari dyan? Is there a contract? Yes, there is. But the parties will be bound to the real agreement. Basta yung real agreement is a valid contract. It is not against law, morals, good customs, public order, or public policy. Okay, that is all for today. Consent lang muna. Ang next video is about the other essential element called the object of the contract.